Your fast should not be like any ordinary day. It should be different. How? When you fast, all of your body parts, your eyes, your ears, your tongue, your hands and feet, they all have to fast. This is that spiritual fasting. This is the spiritual fasting that we are talking about. Eyes, what is the fasting of the eyes? Imam al-Islam, he says that keep your eyes off unlawful things and objects. Spend this most precious gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in good cause and pious acts, and read the Quran and supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at the Quran. Read the Quran. Look at the du'as. Read the du'as. Ears. What does Imam say? He says, abstain from hearing unlawful gossip. Abstain from hearing lies, false statements, music, and obscene topics. Pay attention towards what? Topics of learning, topics of religion. Pay attention to topics that will make yourself a better person. The tongue, fasting of the tongue. What does the Imam say? He says, do not tell lies or useless tales, and do not spread rumors or gossip about other persons, and keep away from all types of falsehood. It says that use the power of speech in spreading the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and creating goodwill within the society. The tongue. And we had already spoken about one of the greater sins in Islam is what? Ghiba. Greater sins in Islam, tale-telling. Fasting of the hands. Do not inflict injury upon others by your actions. Instead, strive to help them as far as you can or as much as you can. This is the siyam or the fast of the body parts. The feet. Do not go to forbidden places. Do not go there. Do not run between people creating strife. Another topic we talked about. Go towards those places of worship. Go towards those places where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is remembered. And what should your movement be? For your movement, instead of being to separate people, your movement should be to bring people closer together. And one of the purposes of fasting is to what? Is to develop and strengthen our powers of self-control. This is what we need to carry on now from the month of Ramadan. Self-control. Not just physical self-control from eating and drinking. No. Spiritual self-control. Spiritual self-control. All those things that make a fast void, those things, looking, for example, if you leave aside those things that make a fast void, in the month of Ramadan, a lot of us, we're more aware. We're a little bit more aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because now we have to fast. And because we have to fast, we're aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the sense that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has commanded this fast. So what do? We might not listen to music. In the month of Ramadan, we might not listen to music. Why? Because we're a little bit aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of this fast. But does that mean that now that Ramadan's over, you're free to listen to music now? No, of course not. Maybe in this month of Ramadan, we didn't gossip. Why? Because it's the month of Ramadan. Does that mean that now that the month of Ramadan is over, that you can start gossiping? Of course not. Of course not. In relation to fasting, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says that there's some people who fast the whole month of Ramadan and get nothing but thirst and hunger out of it. Thirst and hunger. Why is that? It's because these people don't know or don't understand the purpose of fasting. The month of Ramadan. And one of the purposes of fasting, like I said, was what? Self-control. And this self-control needs to be carried on now that the month of Shawwal has come. These wrongdoings These wrongful desires that we have in the month of Ramadan, we control them. We control them. These sinful desires that we have in the month of Ramadan, we control them to a certain extent. And what do we need to do now? We need to carry that control on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-Hijr, verse number 45, إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَعُيُونٍ. The righteous will be amid gardens and fountains. And Surah Al-Hud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Surely the end is for those who guard against evil. Surely the end is for whom? The muttaqeen. And we read in Surah Al-Maryam, verse number 72, ثُمَّ نُنَجِّي الَّذِينَ اتَّقُوا. And we will deliver those who guard against evil, and we will leave the unjust on their knees. So, what are we seeing here? The deliverance is for whom? The muttaqeen. Jannat is for whom? The muttaqeen. The afterlife, the best afterlife is for whom? The muttaqeen. So, what is taqwa? And it's this taqwa that we need to carry on. This taqwa. And according to Allama Majlisi, taqwa, there's 4 types. Taqwa can be achieved through 4 means. Wara' at-tabiri, which means to abstain from prohibited things. Wara' at-tabiri. Okay, to abstain from prohibited things. This we do in the month of Ramadan. Okay. Second, wara' salihin, to abstain from doubtful things so that one may not commit a haram act. Now it's getting a bit more complicated. Now it's getting a bit harder. Why? The first was just abstaining from haram things. It was just abstaining from haram things. But now we're abstaining from those doubtful things so that we don't commit a haram act. Third is warad muttaqeen, to abstain from permissible things so that one is absolutely protected from haram. It might be permissible. For example, just eating outside maybe. Eating outside. It's permissible to eat from outside. It's permissible. But are you 100% sure that what you're eating is halal? No. If you're not, then what should you do? Even though it's permissible for you to eat from outside, abstain from eating outside. Come back home and eat. 4, wara sadiqeen, to avoid everything that is not religious so that one may not waste precious time in useless acts, even though there may not be any risk of committing a sin. These are the 4 ways someone can become a muttaqi. And the Holy Prophet himself, he's reported to have said that I swear by Allah in whose power is my life, there is not a single person who prays 5 times a day, fasts during the month of Ramadan, and abstains from sins that the gates of paradise will not be open for him. This is the month that has just left us, brothers and sisters. This month. So we see that the end is for those who guard against evil, the deliverance is for those who guard against evil, the gardens are for those who guard against evil. Even supplications are accepted from people that guard against evil. One day Hazrat Musa alayhi salam passed by a person from his followers who was in a state of sajda. After completing whatever he needed to do, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam returned to find that person still in sajda. And he says, after hours passed, hours had passed, and this man was still in sajda. When Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, he came back, he says that if I had the power to grant your wish, I would surely grant it to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Hazrat Musa alayhi salam that even if this man does sajda for me till his head gets detached from his neck, I will not accept his deeds till he abstains from that which I dislike and that does that which pleases me. Which pleases me. This is what a lot of us do. We're continuously sinning At the same time, we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. We're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant our desires, to grant our wishes. We want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do something for us, but we don't want to do anything that He's asked us to do. So, what happens? Sins were hindering the supplications from being accepted. This man's sins were hindering his supplications from being accepted. So, in fasting, brothers and sisters, by refraining from the natural human urge to satisfy one's appetite, we are exercising our ability of self-restraint, self-control, so that we can apply it to our everyday life to bring about self-improvement. If we can refrain from eating and drinking, one of the most necessary things for a human being, eating and drinking, one of the most necessary things. If we can refrain from this, then why is it so hard to refrain from backbiting? Why is it so hard to refrain from ghibah? When we read the hadith, when we read hadith al-Qudsi, when the Holy Prophet ascended for Miraj, we come to a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Holy Prophet, Ya Ahmad, I swear by my dignity and greatness that no believing servant secures 4 merits from me except that I permit him to enter paradise. 1, he keeps his mouth closed and does not open it except about what concerns him. I only talk about the things that concern me. I don't open my mouth about something someone else did. No, I don't. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. 2, the servant safeguards his heart against delusion. 3, he safeguards my knowledge and my seeing him. And 4, the apple of his eye becomes hunger. Ya Ahmad, were you to only taste the sweetness of hunger, silence, solitude, and were you to taste their legacy? The Holy Prophet, he says, Ya Rabbi, O Lord, what is the legacy of hunger? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies, it is wisdom, the safeguarding of the heart, the nearness to me, continued grief, the carrying of a light burden compared to others, the saying of the truth without being concerned whether one lives in ease or in hardship. Ya Ahmad, do you know during what time a servant becomes close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The Prophet says, no Lord, I don't. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replies, he does so when he is either hungry or in a state of sajda. In a state of sajda. As we bear the difficulties, or as we bore those difficulties of fasting in that month of Ramadan, we were fasting what? For purely the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should have known that our actions, however, whether they be obvious or they be discreet, whether they be minor or they're major, they be many or less or very few, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. A lot of us, we fast in the month of Ramadan. Why? It's wajib. Why? Because we don't want to be punished on the Day of Judgment. Not fasting in the month of Ramadan is not the only way that someone will be punished in the Day of Judgment. No. Whatever, brothers and sisters, whatever change that we brought within ourselves in this holy month of Ramadan, that change we need to carry in these next months. In these next months. And one of the reasons, or another reason behind fasting in the month of Ramadan was what? Was that just as the poor eat 1 time a day, so do we eat 1 time a day in this month. It's through this that we remember the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which we normally take for granted. Some of us, we eat 2 times a day, we eat 3 times a day, 5 meals, 5 small meals a day, whatever your dietary habit is. Most of us, we take that for granted. We don't stop and think, hold on a second, you know what? There's someone who's eating just 1 time a day, maybe. But in this month of Ramadan, everyone just eats one time a day. So even the person that eats 4, 5, 6 times a day remembers that, there are others that eat one time a day. I'm just like them. It's through this fasting that we sympathize with those that are less fortunate. Those that are less fortunate. And the fitrah that we talked about before we even did the prayer, the fitrah is wajib at the end of the month. Why? Because we have narrations from the holy imams, that say that our fast for the month of Ramadan are up in the air until we pay fitrah. The 30 days of Ramadan that we just fasted, they're still up in the air until fitrah has been paid. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ متته القائلون ولا يسينا معه العدون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالصخر ميدان أرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين بالقاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وآله وإمام المسلمين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب وعلى سيدة النساء العالمين فاطمة الزهراء صلوات الله عليها وعلى سيد الشباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين عليهم السلام. اللهم صل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. اللهم صل على مولانا حجة بن الحسن صاحب الأسر والزمان. اللهم كن وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, brothers and sisters, there's just Ziyarat Imam Hussein for for Eid-ul-Fitar. After the Ziyarah, please 2 rakat Namaz for Ziyarat Imam Hussein, and then we're all done. So please get ready for Ziyarat. Assalamu alaikum ya ibn Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum ya ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alaikum ya ibn Siddiqat al-Tahira Fatimat Sayyidat al-Nisa al-Alameen. Assalamu alaikum ya Mawla ya Aba Abdullah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وتلوت الكتاب حق تلاوته وجاهدت في الله حق جهاده وصبرت على الأذى في جنبه محتسبا حتى أتاك اليقين. أشهد أن الذين خالفوك وحاربوك والذين خذلوك والذين قتلوك ملعونون على لسان النبي الأمي وقد خاب من افترى. لعن الله الظالمين لكم من الأولين والآخرين وضاعف عليهم العذاب الأليم. أتيتك يا مولاي يا ابن رسول الله زائرا عارفا بحقك مواليا لأوليائك معاديا لأعدائك مستبصرا بالهدى الذي أنت عليه عارفا بضلالة من خالفك فاشفع لي عند ربك. السلام عليك يا حجة الله في أرضه وسمائه. صلى الله على روحك الطيب وجسدك الطاهر وعليك السلام يا مولاي ورحمة الله وبركاته. زيارة علي أكبر. السلام عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي ورحمة الله وبركاته. لعن الله من ظلمك ولعن الله من قتلك وضاعف عليهم العذاب الأليم. زيارة الشهداء كربلاء. السلام عليكم أيها الصديقون. السلام عليكم أيها الشهداء الصابرون. أشهد أنكم جاهدتم في سبيل الله وصبرتم على الأذى في جنب الله ونصحتم لله ولرسوله حتى أتاكم اليقين. أشهد أنكم أحياء عند ربكم ترزقون. وجزاكم الله عن الإسلام وأهله أفضل الجزاء المحسنين وجمع بيننا وبينكم في محل النعيم. زيارة أبو الفضل عباس عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله. أشهد أنك قد جاهدت ونصحت وصبرت حتى أتاك اليقين. لعن الله الظالمين لكم من الأولين والآخرين والحقهم بدرك الجحيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please, brothers and sisters, once again, Eid Mubarak to everyone, and please make sure that you pray 2 rakat salat, Ziyarat Imam Hussein. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, I will see you all again soon.